Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. And as always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast here from Benchmark International Arena, the bench here at 401 Channelside Drive. And we're getting closer and closer to hockey season. Tampa Bay Lightning Media Day today. We'll get into all of what happened and what we heard, some big injury news as well. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. I know you guys are ready in the comment section. We've been waiting. We pushed the show back to make sure that we could hear everybody at Media Day. Didn't get everybody because the guys are still doing stuff downstairs. Braden Point, Victor Hedman. The only two guys that we didn't get, but Julian Breezeball and Nikita Kucherov and Andre Vasilevsky, a bunch of people we have already heard from today. No Sweet today because they're doing stuff. They're on the ice, so they obviously can't hear me. So I'm here right outside of Cigar City, section 212. We are getting closer and closer to opening night here for our boys. Cannot wait to see the Tampa Bay Lightning back in action as they try to climb the mountain once again to be your Stanley Cup champions. Great show for you guys today. 2 o'clock. We got our guy, Greg Auman from Fox Sports, going to join us as well. So he will give us the information pretty much on everything when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We know that they're going to be facing a backup quarterback, and Justin Fields is down. So Tyrod Taylor is going to be the guy, 36 years young. What kind of challenges does he present? We'll give you a little bit of an update on that a little bit later on the program. Back at noon tomorrow as we're home in the home casa and get ready for the weekend. USF in action, the Bucs in action on Sunday against those Jets. We'll talk a little Rays as well with Josh Lowe and what the heck has gone from that, because he was a guy that was really a big part of the equation when it came to this team, part of this future. I don't see that anymore. I really don't. I don't know where they're at with Josh Lowe. So we'll get into that. Kind of the curious case of a guy that they really, I think, were depending on to be one of their top guys, and just it hasn't come to fruition, not at all. All right. So, of course, a shout out to our guys, Honest Hammer Custom Builders LLC, 813-244-0956. Scan that QR code for all of your commercial and residential needs. Still got my freaking. I'm gonna keep it on. I can't take it off with the headphones on. So yeah, I got my credential on too. You know what? Now it's bothering me. I got to take it off. There you go. You start getting into your head. There we go. There we go. Much better. Much better. All right. So, and Karen Clemente with the very nice words. Hey, Jay. Great coverage of Media Day today. Thank you so much. If you missed any of them, they're all up on my Twitter/X page at JRetcher, and also on my YouTube page. So if you go on the channel, tiny.cc/JRetcher, got the whole video on there, as well as our guy Honest Hammer says, fire the cannons. And David Terry brings it up right here. Jay Brett, I think we lost Nick Paul till November. Not a good start. Well, that was the biggest news really coming out of media today from General Manager Julian Breezeball. So let's hear it right from the horse's mouth. What did he have to say? This is the first thing he said. It was about 19 minutes today of Julian Breezeball speaking. He was the guy that spoke longer than everybody else. So here's what he had to say right at the top when he was asked about injuries, and specifically one Nick Paul. Come on, people. There we go. We in? We're in, and here we go.
Is everybody healthy and available for the start here?
Nick Paul has an upper body injury. He needed surgery last Friday. I expect he will be out until the first part of November. And Nico Huhtinen is out with a lower body injury. I would say he's probably week to week at this point. he should be ready in time for the start of Syracuse's season. I'm not sure exactly how much ahead of that he will be ready.
And Connor Curve.
Oh, Connor Curve, thank you. Yeah, Connor Curve is also out day-to-day right now.
Was Nick's injury a training situation?
No, it's something he's been dealing with most of last season, to be honest. And then we tried every conservative method of getting him back to 100% over the course of the summer. And everything we tried just wasn't working. And as we got closer to the start of the season, decided this was probably best to be addressed through surgery, which we did last week. And that was the fastest way of getting him back to 100% at this point.
So a lot of people wondering, like, what would that injury be, right? Having that discussion of, okay, you think upper body injury, right? But if we go back, and it was really great job by our good pal, Eric Erlinson, lightninginsider.com. Make sure you subscribe to lightninginsider.com. Use that promo code J&Z. Get $10 off, not just this year, but every recurring season, especially with Lightning hockey right around the corner. And we were sitting there, a couple of us, Deandra Lou from the Hockey News, Ed Edenstein from the Tampa Bay Times, and Eric was looking back at the discussion that we had during exit interviews with Julien BriseBois. And, at the end of the year, you see or you hear from the general manager of like all the different injuries, because you're not afraid to talk about the specifics of those injuries, because you're not going to see them for the next couple of months. And you're thinking that, hey, with some time off, they're going to get better. And that's what they thought they were going to get with Nick Paul. And the injury, and Eric looked it up, was a tear in his left wrist. So when you asked Julien BriseBois, he was very transparent today. He was very candid in a lot of his answers. And Julien does such a great job of, towing that line and being candid, but also, keeping his cards close to the vest. But I think this is one of the more candid discussions that we've had with Julien during our time here, whether it was Amalie or Benchmark International Arena. And coming right out of the gates and letting us know about Nick Paul and saying that he was dealing with it last year. I mean, you put 2 and 2 together. And if he was dealing with it last year and he told us at the end of the season that he had a tear in his left wrist, one would, I don't want to say assume, but one would think that tear in his left wrist was the injury that he's dealing with. So I know there's a lot of people out there kind of getting a little bit of a flashback of what happened with the Tristan Wirfs injury. Why wait until the end of the off season to get the surgery done, and then it cuts into the regular season? Well, what happens is, you don't think it's as severe as initially thought. It's hard to get surgery on something where you don't know if you're hurt, and you're also, there's something different to be when you're talking about off-season training and then training ramping up to get ready for the regular season. And with a lot of these injuries, and everybody's banged up, and you hear this a lot, whether it's hockey or football, like everybody's banged up, everybody's dealing with something. So at the end of the year, you don't really know how egregious it is. It could just be kind of a sore, part of your body, or just a muscle that's been overworked. And with time off, you're going to feel a lot better. And when you're not going through the rigors of practice and games, and you probably feel better. I mean, you just naturally heal. So you're thinking like you're on a road to recovery. You don't think like, wow, it's still damaged in there and I have to get surgery on it. I think it's impossible. That's why to answer that question, when people say, well, didn't they know? Well, obviously not, right? These are some of the best doctors in the world. And how could they not know? Why did they wait? Well, because you're getting better. Not better to the point where that you're 100%, but you got to think, if you're Nick Paul, you've been dealing with this wrist injury, and you're thinking at the heed and the advice of the doctors and the medical staff here with the Tampa Bay Lightning, hey, man, if it's a tear in your left wrist and you don't necessarily want to go under the knife, and you think it's just something that you can just heal naturally over the last, obviously it was a long summer for the Bolts, getting knocked out in the first round. And now you learn, unfortunately, that you do need surgery. Like, what are you going to do? You can't go back. And if anything, it should make you feel better, because we have gone through this with Tristan Wirfs. So he's going to be out until the first part of November. I'm not overly concerned. I think he's going to be fine. I think this is a guy that's going to be ready to roll when his number is called, and he's going to be able to get on the ice and skate. So he's going to be able to get his legs. Of course, there's nothing to really replicate what he's going to get as far as physicality, because he's going to be in a red no contact jersey, I'm sure. But I have no fear that Nick Paul is going to be able to come back and do what he's got to do to be a big part of this team. Shout out to Chan donating the $5 super chat, guys. The only way we're going to keep this thing rolling. $1, $2, $5, $10, $20 here on the super chat. Every little bit helps. A big thank you to Chan there. Oh, no, not Mr. Bean, a.k.a. Nick Paul. Get well soon. Our guy, Honest Hammer, where are you at? Speaking of injuries, anyone else think the Kancey experiment is over? What is this missing 3 out of 4 years? Sad because he could be a big help to our line, but can never stay healthy. I don't want to really go down that path right now. Anthony, so good to see the guys, especially Hags, back to normal. Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. For him to be a guy here, he had such a fantastic season last year. A guy that's such a dynamic player, 5-on-5. He does play on the power play. He's one of the better penalty killers in the game. But, man, his contributions 5-on-5, you're talking about up there with the Dreisaitl's of the world. And he was so good. And just watching him speak to the media, because I asked him too, like the last time we spoke to him, it was super emotional because of how the season ended and how his year ended with the concussion, with the cheap hit from Aaron Ekblad. It's funny, I haven't gotten fired up about that hit in a couple of months now. And now you just start thinking about how that series unfolded, and it starts kind of stoking the flame again. You get excited for Lightning hockey, and you're looking for revenge and retribution, regardless of trying to get payback on Aaron Ekblad. The biggest thing is making sure that this team closes the gap with the Florida Panthers, because right now they rule the roost, back-to-back champions, gone to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. And the big topic of conversation today was, how do you find that line, right? How do you close the gap with the Panthers? A lot of regular season success for the Tampa Bay Lightning in the last couple of years, and it hasn't really translated to the postseason. And when you're a group like this, you have lofty expectations. It is not just okay to make the playoffs. Not when you've set the bar that high. Not when you have as many Stanley Cup champions on this roster as you do. And I brought that up to Ryan McDonough about having a sense of urgency. Is there a sense of urgency knowing that teams change, players move? Like, you think about how much the roster has turned over since this team won the Stanley Cup 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, Palat and Killorn and David Savard, and just, you're seeing so many guys, Gordon McDonough leaving and coming back. Obviously, Steven Stamkos not here any longer. So right now, when you have a good team, you got to strike while the iron's hot. And judging by the decisions made, or maybe the decisions not made by Julien Brisebois as far as totally overhauling the roster, they have a belief in this group of players. And we've seen this before, and we've seen it through much more tragic times and historic losses when they got bounced in the first round there in 2019 by the Columbus Blue Jackets, getting swept in the first round after an incredibly memorable and historic regular season with all the wins and all the points that they had. Many other franchises and organizations would have just lost their mind, and they would have got rid of John Cooper, and they would have got rid of players, and they would have made a big trade to shake up the apple cart. That's not what the Tampa Bay Lightning did. They stayed true. They stuck to their guns. They brought in a Pat Maroon. They brought in a Kevin Shattenkirk. They doubled down on the leadership and the core group of guys that they had, and look at what they were able to do, then going to 2 straight Stanley Cup finals. So looking at the roster that they had, they really weren't going to make a bunch of moves. They bringing in Pontus is one guy from Toronto that they like to be a little bit more difficult to play against. And one thing that we were able to glean from the discussion with Julien Brisebois today is that this team is going to be built different than we've seen the last couple of years, where the Lightning were so close to the salary cap, and you really knew who the 12 forwards were. Maybe there was, kind of a little bit of a shuffling in the back end of the blue line there, but it's going to be a little different this year. They're going to have 13, 14, 15 forwards, and you saw that with Florida. They did that the last couple of postseasons, where they were able to have guys in their bottom 6 that they can kind of shuffle in and out. They can deal with injuries. They can keep guys fresh. And Paul Maurice, sometimes it wasn't just one guy. They would just put 3 guys in and take 3 guys out. And you got to find a way to keep those guys fresh, to keep those guys motivated. Like, there's a lot of different reasons why you want to do that. And it makes sense. It's a copycat league. We say that about all the leagues in professional sports. And I think that's something that the Lightning have been burning the candle at both ends with a lot of these guys. And if you can take some of the onus off of your top players, your penalty killers, the guys that play the tough minutes, I just think it makes a lot of sense. I always go back to why the left side of the D pairing for the Tampa Bay Lightning made so much sense over the years with Mikhail Sergachev and Ryan McDonagh and Victor Hedman, because you were able to kind of take away one responsibility from each guy and keep everybody fresh. You didn't need Heddy so much on the PK and going against the top teams, other players all the time, because you had Ryan McDonagh. You didn't need Mac on the power play like you saw him with the Rangers. He didn't have to play every single time on the top unit. And then Sergey was a younger guy. He had a lot of legs. He can fill in pretty much everywhere. And I think throughout the course of an 82 game regular season and possibly 28 playoff games, that keeps some of your guys, as fresh as they possibly can be. We know how tough it is with a regular season and how rigorous the postseason is in the National Hockey League. So it makes a lot more sense. So if you can continue to do stuff like that, just in different aspects, I think it helps you in the long term. It really does. Karen on board. If it is a wrist injury, at least he can still skate and keep in lower body shape. Look at my guy, Yusuf Hader-Moda in the house. My guy, man. Appreciate the love, my friend. Hope you and Gabe and the entire family are doing well. Let's see. Chan says, please don't hate me. Vasy has not been Vasy in the playoffs like he was when they were winning consistently. If he gets back to his old self, they will be much better. He is good to great, but since he got hurt, he hasn't been so good. The other teams don't know what to do with him. I mean, part of that, I can see what you're saying, but I think it's the team as a whole, really. I mean, some of it is luck too. I mean, you look at the one game last year where it's a 2-1 series. The Lightning are just a couple of minutes away from tying the series up there in Florida, and then just a fluky goal in front where the puck just ends up on the stick of Aaron Ekblad, tie score, and then a shot from the point. I just remember standing there stunned down at the Amerant Bank Arena in Sunrise going, where the hell did that come from? What is going on? Unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of the beast. That's the game. It sucks, man. It really does. Sucks. All right. So what I wanted to play, another big topic of conversation today, is the future of Ryan McDonagh. So I wanted to ask this question because, Mac is such a big part of this team, and we've seen the difference with Mac Truck as far as, and I don't want to give away the answer because Julian answered it so it's just perfect the way he talks, not just about the player, but also about the human being. But it's the reality of the situation. And we understand that his contract is coming up at the end of the year. He played all 82 games last year. This guy's not getting any younger, that's for sure. But his play isn't deteriorating. And right before this, he alluded to the fact that guys like Ryan McDonagh and Victor Hedman could probably play until their 40s. And I don't dispute that. Just because they're so smart in how they, like, you don't see either one of those guys taking huge hits. They take care of their bodies in the offseason. They're just smart players on and off the ice. And, I wanted to ask Julian, I said, hey, man, what do you think about, the future of Ryan McDonagh? And if you are one of those people that are concerned about the future of Ryan McDonagh and whether he's going to be here after this year, I think you just listen to what Julian had to say right here. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel much better about Ryan McDonagh's time with the Lightning, not just here in the 25-26 season, but beyond, after hearing JBB say this. The contract with McDonagh, and played all 82 games last year. And how do you kind of balance like what he's done and what he can do, and knowing, all right, we got to have that conversation at some point. Is that something you do during the season? Maybe you table it till after?
We're going to table everything till after. At least that's the plan right now. That's my expectation. That's what's going to happen. Obviously, we have Matt that needs a contract at the end of the season. We have a few others, Bjorkstrand, JJ Moser, Lilleberg, Mitch Chafee, Darren Radish. I think those are the guys that were in Tampa last year and who need contracts at the end of the season. And it's not a judgment on them. We're not doing like in a salary cap world, you're not doing contracts in a vacuum. It's always how all the pieces fit together to build the best puzzle and assemble the nicest, best picture, best roster possible. And how you allocate those dollars is important. We have time right now. We're going to use that time. I think that's the wisest course of action for us. when we traded for Ryan McDonough, I told him the plan was to not only have him finish his career, his contract here, but sign another contract after that. My expectations, that's what's going to happen. Just like when we traded for Yanni Gord, I told him at the time, like, I'm not bringing you in as a rental. My expectation is that we're going to work together on getting a contract done. Yanni worked with us. We got a contract done. Now he gets to stay here. We get to keep having his services help us win games in Tampa. That's what I'm hoping, expecting will happen after the season with Ryan McDonough. He's led the league in plus minus last year. He went to the USA camp, has a shot at making the Olympic team. He's still an elite defender in this league and a phenomenal leader. So even if his play slips eventually and Father Time is undefeated, he will still help us win with all the intangibles he brings to the table, because not only are we a better team because of his individual play, but because of how he makes everyone around him better. So super important player to us, super important leader to us. And I fully expect that to be the case going forward beyond this season as well. Last season, Florida had a couple players that went to this season, key players for them that were going to be unrestricted free agents. They played out the year, they won a cup, they ended up re-signing in Florida. I'm hoping that'd be a great way for us to do a contract with Mac after the season, after winning another championship.
I mean, so there you have it. And for somebody like myself who's been covering the team for over a decade now, I got to be 100% honest with you. I did not hear that same sentiment about Steven Stamkos. And listen, you don't know why, right? Like you could look at the entire situation and say, okay, well, the salary cap wasn't going up a couple of years ago like it is now. Maybe the skills had, in their eyes, deteriorated a little bit more from Stammer than what they saw from Ryan McDonough. But regardless, one of the things that I've said about this whole situation with Julien Brisebois is I thought that there was a little bit of a lack of transparency and communication. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily an opinion. We heard as much from Steven Stamkos on this day 2-3 years ago. So we're hearing the opposite of that. And that's the thing, is when you critique guys that have had an incredible track record, it doesn't mean you think that they're not good at their job. Doesn't mean that it's personal. It doesn't mean they can't change. I mean, look no further than a guy like Todd Bowles, bringing in a guy to work on the time, bringing in different coaches and being more open-minded. And he just seems so much more gregarious and having more fun with his job, doesn't he? Like the last couple of years, like he's learned. And I think that Julien Brisebois learned from the situation with Steven Stamkos and maybe some of the other guys and said, hey, maybe I do need to be a little bit more upfront with these guys. And he mentioned Yanni Gord. You're not a rental. We want to sign you to a deal after this. He told Ryan McDonough, I want to sign you to another deal after this one is complete. And I just, knowing Ryan McDonough the way I do, and it's not so much knowing Ryan McDonough, the player, knowing the person and knowing the family man, the dad, the husband. Like, this dude's looking at the situation like, I know how much time I got left. I know I can still play at a high level. I want to play for Team USA in the Olympics, but I love Tampa. Like, he loves it here. Him and Maroon are close. Him and the guys here are close. Like, it was nice. Nashville was cool, right? He got along really good with Philip Forsberg, and, they treated him really well. I mean, Stammer's living in his freaking house there. I don't know if he still is, but I know he once was. But with Mac, like, it makes too much sense. And I love that that's what we heard from Julien Brisebois today. I love the transparency. I mean, listen, he's going to be on this team beyond this year. Now, based on if he misses any time, because, again, he's not a spring chicken. He's not getting any younger. But, if he does get banged up a little bit, and let's say he doesn't play all 82 games this year, then maybe that affects the term. Maybe that affects, how much money he makes per year. But, I mean, Mac knows this is one of the best places to live. He also knows this probably gives him the best chance to win another Stanley Cup before he retires. And he also knows that there's other leaders here. He knows, the Hedmans and the Sorellis and the Kuches and Hagels. So playing with Eric Chernak, like, there's peace of mind has a lot to do with it when it comes to being a professional athlete. And we tend to forget it a lot of times because you look at the salary and you look at the money. The millionaires, they'll figure it out. And at times it is about the money. The majority of the time I think it is. But I think there's certain points in your career when, if you're not focused on the money, you're looking for comfort. when you've already won a championship. Like, your expectations, your perspectives completely change. And you start figuring out, all right, how do I want to end my career? He knows that he's got more years behind him than in front of him. But he's trying to set him up right. How am I going to finish my career on the highest note possible? And that's playing right here in the Tampa Bay with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And if you know that your general manager feels the same way and he's going to try to make that work, and listen, for all the things we could say about the whole Julian Brisebois and Steven Stamkos situation, one thing that we do know is that if he wants you here, he will find a way to make it work. He'll find a way. He handed out those 3 big-time deals to him and to Cirelli, to Chernak, and Sergachev, right? The first time Stamkos was, come back here, he was part of those negotiations as well. So I like that. I really like what I heard from that situation right there. Chan says that the Bolts are really looking for a way to match the Panthers. I need this question answered. Who is the Bolts version of Marchand? What I saw from the Panthers was his energy. Yeah, I mean, they signed him to a nice deal too, but you also have to be cognizant that they paid all 3 of those guys, Marchand, Bennett, Ekblad. All those 3 guys aren't getting any younger either. They all play a physical game. I don't know if you necessarily have to. I think you get down a slippery slope a little bit too much when you start matching player for player. You can't really look at it like that. I mean, some people could say, all right, well, Yanni Gourde's that type of player. I asked Julian Brisebois earlier today about a guy like Connor Geekie. Where does Connor Geekie fit into the fold? He's a guy that can take his game to the next level. I think he could be a problem because he's big. You saw Gates Gonsalves take his game to the next level last year. And I think they'll miss Nick Paul, but there's some other guys, Pelletier that got in the offseason, Holmberg, another guy. Mitchell Chafee's still there. He real physical. Yanni Gourde's back. And you already know what the top 6 are looking like with Point and Kuch and Gensel. And you have Cirelli and Hagel and Bjorkstrand is 100%, which is great, which is phenomenal to be able to hear that. All right, let's talk some Buccaneer football as well before we get to some Rays. And again, our guy Greg Auman is going to join us at 2 o'clock. I'm thrown off. I want to hear from you, though. Questions, comments, and concerns about the Lightning, about the Bolts, the Lightning, the Bucks, the Rays, USF, anything, put it there at the bottom of the screen right there, and I'll do my best to answer to you. Make sure you check out my guy, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, 813-244-0956. I know the Buccaneers practiced today over at the Avenel Training Center at One Buccaneer Place. We did hear the big news from the Buccaneers' opponent on Sunday, the New York Jets, that Justin Fields will be out this week as he deals with a concussion. Tyrod Taylor is going to start, the 36-year-old right-hander. I just talked about him like he's a pitcher. 36-year-old right-hander with the 4-pitch mix. You know what you're going to get from Tyrod. This is a guy that's been a veteran. He's a veteran in this league. There's nothing that you're going to throw at him that he's never seen before. But he's a different type of quarterback than what you thought you were going to get from Justin Fields. So you're probably going to get a guy that's a lot more accurate, but you're not having to deal with the just incredible running prowess that Justin Fields brings to the table. Like the running element of his game is just fantastic. And when he's at his best, you look at him like, damn, you understand why he was a first-round draft pick a couple of years ago out of Ohio State to the Chicago Bears. Now, it doesn't mean that the Bucs need to rest on their laurels because they're dealing with their own issues. Cody Mauch didn't practice today. He's dealing with a knee injury. And this is something, and we got the Beckles and Recher podcast coming up between probably 3:15, 3:30 today over at the Dignitary Cafe. He kept saying to me, Ian did, he goes, look at Mauch, look at Mauch, look at Mauch, because he was the only guy on the offensive line on Monday night that was in his normal position, because you had Graham Barton, your starting center, playing left tackle. You had Ben Bredesen, your starting left guard, playing center. You have Mike Jordan, a guy that's been elevated from the practice squad the last 2 weeks, playing left guard. And then, after Luke Gedeke goes out, you have Charlie what the heck playing right tackle. So it's Cody Mauch, the only guy, and he had a little bit of a hitch in his – he was almost walking – I was making fun of him. Not making fun of him, but I was just remarking that he kind of walked like Jameis. Jameis had a little bit of like a hitch in his giddy-up. And that's what Cody Mauch, he always had a little bit of a – he didn't look comfortable whatsoever. Not comfortable at all. And Ian just kept saying it and saying it and saying it. And now we know, like, with him not being out there, that's not good. Not good at all. And you start looking at this game this weekend, and the Buccaneers need to remain on high alert. They cannot let their guard down. And we saw it last year. I don't necessarily believe that when you look at situations of like trap games, and I've seen that a lot on social media the last couple of days, like when it comes to trap games, right? Like, I don't necessarily know if there's necessarily a trap game, but I do think there's just a natural lowered level of awareness and just not as heightened of a sensitivity to certain games, right? No matter what you do, I just think it's natural. I think you're telling me that USF is going to play with the same type of fire, passion, and energy this week than they did last week against Miami? Like, I just think that's impossible. I really do. You can't do that. It's different. Why is it so hard for teams to sweep another team? Because that fourth one is the hardest to win. You see it so many times. Teams up 3-0 in a best-of-7 series. They lose, game 4. And then game 5, they come back and they win the series 4-1. Like, it happens. So for a situation like this, I think it's just natural that you're going to have a little bit I don't even say a letdown, but just it's not going to be the same. But you have to find a way. And that's fine. Like, if that means you're going to start slow, if that means you're going to make some mistakes early on, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. But if you let it fester and you just continue to let the other team grow in confidence and grow into the game, then you're in trouble. And we saw that last year in week 3 against the Denver Broncos. I was there, and I remember watching it, and I'm just like, this did not look good from the jump. They didn't look comfortable. They didn't look like they were they could never, it was almost like a chain on a bike. They kept pedaling, and the wheels were not moving at all. And that you can't do that if you're a team that has big time aspirations to go deep into the postseason. And we said it last week. There's different tests that you have to pass when you're a team that ultimately wins it all. You got to win games that you're up by a lot, and then you blow it, and then you hang on. You got to win games where you're down by a lot, and then you come back. You got to go through games where you play your D-plus game, you turn the football over, and you find a way. Like, again, we said about this with the Tampa Bay Lightning about 3-4 years ago, the Tampa Bay find-a-ways. That's where the Buccaneers mindset needs to be. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care when they come out Sunday if they are not just absolutely dominant against the New York Jets. That is not important to me whatsoever. Your finished product, you just need to play. You just need to finish with more points than the other team. Style points, other than college football, when you're getting ranked and rated based on, there's almost like a sex appeal. There's an aesthetic when it comes to college football, which I think is kind of lame more than anything, to be completely honest. But everything else, it's just about winning. Go out there and win. There's no such thing as style points in the NFL. So does it have to look pretty when you're playing the New York Jets? No, I don't think it is, because you're dealing with a bunch of injuries. Chris Godwin's not going to be out there. Jalen McMillan's not going to be out there. Who knows about Cody Mauch? Are you going to get Tristan Wirfs out? We don't know. Luke Gedicke's going to be out. Graham Barton's going to be playing left tackle probably. Defensive side of the ball, Kalijah Kancey's now out for the year. Who steps up? Is it a guy like Roberts that you drafted out of SMU? Sure as hell is going to have to be. And we're going to ask Greg Auman here in a little bit, how does he think they're going to address that position as far as, do they go out and get somebody? Maybe it's a top-tier guy that's going to start. I don't think that's the case. Do you elevate some guys in the practice squad? Do you go out and sign a veteran that can give you some depth like a Will Golston? Yeah, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. But you have to be able to win games where you're not your healthiest and you don't play your best ball. And we've seen that through 2 weeks. And it doesn't mean that you're not striving for perfection. You're not trying to get better. But you even saw it from Houston. So, like, they came all the way back in that game. They almost won. But how did they win? Or, I mean, how did they come back? It was complimentary football. Their offense was dog crap. Really, outside of the 2 big touchdowns that they had, I mean, everything in between was just, oof, God awful. And my guy CJ Stroud is seeing ghosts out there. He's looking like Sam Darnold on Monday Night Football. He's dancing around in the pocket like Usher in a music video from the early 2000s with only a 3-man rush. But you can't blame him, because we've seen that in the NFL before, where you're constantly getting pressured over and over and over again. And, you're seeing things that aren't there. It just happens. But that defense and that special teams, they kept them in it. And you look at D'Amico Ryans, you look at the passion and the energy that those guys played with. I mean, you tip your hat. Like, that's why it's a good win for the Bucs. You needed everybody. Everybody needed to do something. Now, there's a lot of things you got to clean up, no doubt about it. But that's what good teams do. Good teams win when they only have 2/3 of the equation working, 1/3 of the equation working. And it's got to be every single week. You're punching the clock. You're bringing your freaking lunchbox with you, and you're saying, I'm going to win by any means necessary, and you're not worried about how it looks. That's one of the things that's gotten lost over the last couple of years when it comes to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and all the success that they've had, is that there are games when he throws for 300 yards and throws for 4 touchdowns and does all these miraculous Herculean things. But there's also these games where, when you look at the whole situation, they run the football and they win a 16-7 game, or they win a 20-12 game, and they're not out there just burning up and down the field and just going crazy and scoring a crap ton of points. That's what good teams do. And now you look at where it looks like they've kind of possibly passed the torch to the Philadelphia Eagles. Look at what happened when they faced off last week. Certainly wasn't a Picasso when it comes to Philadelphia and their offensive output. And you heard Chris Jones and Jalen Hurts talking smack at the end of the game. Man, you didn't even get 100 yards. And he said, shut your ass up, man. We won. We're 2-0. Y'all are 0-2. That's what it's about. It's not about style points. It's about coming out on top. It's about winning these games. And it'd be one thing if we're saying this about the Buccaneers and they don't know this, but the real gratifying thing, being a member of Bucs Nation and following this team and covering this team, is that they know it better than us. And that comes from the top. It comes from Todd Bowles. It comes from Baker Mayfield. It comes from Jason Light. It doesn't matter, man. Those style points thing do not matter. Not a problem whatsoever. I wanted to hear from the Baker Mayfield, and this is from our guy, Greg Auman. So Greg Auman posted this. He's going to join us at 2 o'clock today. Baker spoke. He was rocking the throwback creamsicle jersey today. One of the best parts of the game from over the weekend was seeing Baker and C.J. Gardner-Johnson and how Baker looked like he was hurt. And we were like, oh, no. And then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was right there. And Baker just popped up to talk smack. This is Baker for you, all right? That's what I love about the guy. All right, here's what he had to say here. It's going to be quick. It's only 5 seconds long. But here's Baker.
We don't take any shit. It's not it. We don't take any shit. It's not it. We don't take any shit.
I mean, we don't take any shit. I mean, that's like, come on, that's Baker in a nutshell. Oh, Baker in a nutshell. If you missed that video, I put that on my social media account. You got to check that out as well. But that's him. That's him. It doesn't matter who it is. The back and forth that those guys have, like, that just gives the team a ton of just motivation and inspiration. And if your quarterback is bouncing up from what it looks like it could be an injury to just talk smack to the other teams, big smack talker themselves, and just continues to lead this team down the field to victory after victory. I mean, we're following Baker's lead, hopefully following him to a Super Bowl. Lastly, before we talk some Josh Lowe and some Rays, there was a discussion online, and I know that Todd Bowles was asked about it today too, about the last touchdown by Nick Chubb. And I said it to Ian too. We had this discussion, and we'll go back in, and we're actually going to talk about it today on the Beckles and Recher podcast about 3-3-15 today. Did the Buccaneers let Nick Chubb score at the end of the game? 100% they did. They're not going to admit it because that's a slippery slope. It really is, because you lose that game, right? Then maybe you're having a different discussion because they could always miss the kick and you can win. But with that being said, very smart play. And as soon as he broke through the line of scrimmage, I was yelling at the Dignitary Cafe, let him go, let him go, let him go. And Ian and I had the discussion back and forth of whether he should have, slid at the 2-yard line. And we saw Ahmad Bradshaw do it a couple years ago in the Super Bowl, or a decade ago in the Super Bowl, and force the Buccaneers to use, because what would have happened is they would have got the first down. That would have taken the clock down to the 2-minute warning. They would have ran a play, 5 seconds? First timeout. 1:55 left on the clock. 1:55 on the clock. 2nd and 11. Run another play. 1:50 on the clock. They use their second timeout. 3rd and 12. Run another play. Another 5 seconds off the clock. 1:45. Another timeout. Kick another field goal. About $1:40 left on the clock. You're up by what, 1 at the time? Probably too much time on the clock, you would think, for Baker, but they would have no timeout. So it's kind of like you go back and forth. You want to force them to go down the field with all 3 timeouts and score a touchdown. If you're D'Amico Ryans in their defense, I think that's probably the option that you're going to take, and that's what they did. But Todd Bowles was asked about it today, and Antoine Winfield Jr. was asked about it today, and no doubt in my mind, listening to what they had to say, that they let him score. And that's one of the things that you see these veteran defenses do at the end of these games, and you don't necessarily need everybody to talk about it. Antoine Winfield Jr. was kind of just like, whatever. And when you have confidence in your offense, and when you know that you have a guy in Baker Mayfield that can take your team down the field, there's no question. Just, all right, fine. You got to believe in all 3 phases. And Antoine said it with a smile when he was asked if he let Nick Chubb score to get the Bucks the ball back late. It was a great run by him. Yes, we totally agree. All right, so I wanted to talk, before Greg Auman joins us at 2 o'clock, I wanted to talk a little bit about Josh Lowe and what has happened with him, because this is a guy, and I was talking to John Romano today from the Tampa Bay Times. This is a guy that, I think you look at who is part of the core of the Rays, not just right now, but moving forward. You're hoping that a guy like Josh Lowe would be that guy, but you look at him last night, 0 for 4, 2 Ks, his average at 228 this season. And when you look at him, he looks like such an incredible athlete, 6'4", 220, he's 27. He should be in his prime right now. But you look at the last 7 games, you look at the last 15 games, you look at the last 30 games. The last 7 games, my guy's 1 for 24. In his last 15 games, he's 8 for 52. And he's 24 for his last 111. He's not even getting on base. He's striking out 39 times in his last 30 games. This is a guy we're looking back on in that 2023 season going, wow, if you have this guy healthy and he's, getting used, and he's playing 140, 150 games, he could be a 30 home run, 100 RBI guy. In that year in 2023, 20 home runs, 83 ribbies, batted 292 and on base at 335. But again, I feel like we fall into the habit of these Rays hitters or these Rays players, and they have one good year, and we always try to say, well, if they did it in this year, they can do it again. That's not the way it goes. That's not necessarily the case for the majority of players across Major League Baseball. It's a game of failure. And this is a guy that I really don't know if he's a part of the long-term future for the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't know if you can trust him. And it's always a caveat. It's always something with him. It's always something of like, well, he's got to be healthy. And if he stays healthy, and if he does this, and if he does this, and like, one of the things I hate, and we had this conversation with Ian when it was coming to Joe Tryon Shorenka. Well, if this and if that, and could this, he could do that. He's a great looking athlete. Like, you're not saying he's a great player then. And you're dealing in a bunch of hypotheticals. Give me facts. Give me facts. Stop giving me things that you hope can happen or what you think will happen. Like, just give me the facts. The facts is that Josh Lowe has struggled big time, and he's not lived up to the lofty expectations that a lot of people have kind of, hepped on him. Like, all right, he's going to be that guy. He's going to be our guy. I mean, I don't see it. I really don't see it. And when you're looking at guys where, let me go, game logs, pitcher, splits. I'm just looking at the splits for this guy. In July, he batted 186. August, 238. September, he's batting 154. Before the All-Star break, he was batting 249. Okay. After the All-Star break, 206. And here's the other thing. Josh Lowe is batting 176 against left-handed pitching. Only 247 against right-handed pitching, but 176. This is not a guy that people were telling you was going to be a situational outfielder. Well, you can put him in. You can sit him against lefties. Like, you got to be able to find guys that can hit lefties and righties. You can't get into a situation where you're telling me that this is going to be one of your key members of your team, and he's a guy that you have to sit against left-handed pitching, especially when you're playing in the AL East and you're facing Carlos Rodon and you're facing Max Fried and you're facing Garrett Crochet. Like, there's plenty of lefties within the division. Like, you're going to sit Josh Lowe against all those guys? Man, I don't know what has happened with this guy, but it just seems like everything has had to be so perfect for him to be successful. And even when he does get opportunities, it's still not good enough. And some people couldn't blame the injuries because I know we got, hurt the oblique in the first game this season. Yeah, that's fine. But, I mean, to me, you look at this year, he still played in over 100 games. Now, I know we missed, that means he missed like 40% of the season. But still, if he's out there playing 100 games, you should see some semblance of – he got 360-plus at-bats. So the excuses over and over again with the Rays, like I don't want to hear it. I'm just over the excuses and the caveats why guys aren't as good as they're supposed to be. He needs to step his game up. Are you comfortable with him being a part of this future of this team? I'm not at all. Guys, make sure if you're tuning in, make sure you're following me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. And whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on Twitter, he'll kill that like button. Our guy, Benny, where you at? Like button here. David Terry, like button there. Like button here. Like button there. A little bit of everywhere. Louis, our guy from the Frozen Pirate Pod. Really hate to say this. I was a fan of Justin Fields, but what I've been seeing, unfortunately, I think he's a backup moving forward. I understand he's hurt, but you can't fumble. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing, man, is you got to be able to take care of the football if you're going to be one of those guys that runs it a ton. Like we see that with Josh Allen. We see that with Lamar Jackson. We see that with Baker Mayfield. It's funny. It's a fine line, right? When you're talking about the margins, it's a fine line between winning and losing. Because you look at what happened in that game. We're having a different discussion if maybe the Texans pick up that fumble. Maybe Rashad doesn't fall on, right? Like that. Those are the little things that need to happen. You may not be the best. You may not. Why am I FaceTiming my sister? Sorry, guys. Double G calling me. But you got to be able to make the big plays. And it's not always the big interception or the big touchdown. Sometimes it's just being able to dive on a loose ball. Like, that's it, man. That is it. And I just love that the Buccaneers embrace that mentality. When you have sustained success in sports, nobody cares who gets the credit. And I think about the teams that have won multiple championships over the last decade. Just the Florida Panthers are like that easily. Yeah, Matthew Kuch, he's dealt with his injuries, but it's Marchand, it's Sam Bennett, it's Reinhart, it's Ekblad, it's Seth Jones, it's Bobrovsky. Like, there's just so many different guys. And we've seen Eetu Luostarinen and all those guys on the third line, how they've played a huge role in their success, just like we saw with the Tampa Bay Lightning years ago when it was Coleman and Goodrow and Gord, right? Like, it didn't matter. Like, Stamkos wasn't bitching about that. Neither was Kucherov. Neither was Point. Nobody was, right? You need everybody. You look at the Patriots and Tom Brady and the way that he expected so much from so many people, but like, they didn't have like a star-studded offense outside of that 1 year when they had Randy Moss and those guys. But, you know, they had Gronk, they had Welker, they had Amendola, but like, you just look during their whole tenure of those 6 titles that they had, like, it was everybody. Everybody contributed. And it's so hard to win in any of the professional leagues when you don't have that mindset. It's hard to do when you do, but it's like impossible to win if you don't, right? And I think that's what should really give you solace. That's what should give you comfort as a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, because it just doesn't matter who does it. It doesn't matter. Whoever contributes to the victory, hey, they're all for us. And we saw it with Rashad White and Bucky Irving. Look no further than those guys. All right, let me show you guys real quick about my friends over at The Honest Hammer. TheHonestHammer.com, guys. You need to be able to hit them up. All your commercial and residential needs, they'll be able to help you out. 813-244-0956. Tell them that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast, and you get a discount. General Contractor Company, CGC 153116, 813-244-0956. Shoot them an email, thehonesthammer@gmail.com, thehonesthammer.com. You're looking to build a new house? You got a plot of land, you want to build a new house, they can take care of you. Bathroom, kitchen renovations. Listen, I understand this is a big decision that you have to make. You're spending all this money. This is your home. This isn't just a house. This is your home. And you want to be able to trust the people that you're working with. That's why they are the number one partner here on the Jay Recher podcast. Honest Hammer Custom Builders, 813-244-0956. We had somebody call in last week during the show, and they chatted with Russ. He's a Tampa Bay sports fan, just like you. He's a Bucs fan. He's a USF fan. He's a Lightning fan. This is the type of guy, he bleeds the Tampa Bay colors with you, but he's a good guy. He's a good human being. And when you're dealing with all these shady contractors in the business, you want to be able to trust a guy that's going to be working on your home. Russ is that type of guy. Again, tell him that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast. Get that discount, 813-244-0956. Russ, my guy over at Honest Hammer. Love those guys and gals. They are the best. And you saw it when I posted a couple weeks ago when I was at the job site a couple Thursdays ago. I want to be able to go back and give you guys an update on what it looks like. The whole room downstairs was like a big soccer room for the kids. I mean, just in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, how many different sports would I have been playing in there as a kid? Because my mom and dad, they did not believe in that play ball in the house thing. Thank God, because I don't know what I've been able to do. They were just making sure that don't throw like a baseball in the house. Make sure that it was like a lighter ball, like a wiffle ball, or like a sponge ball. And, you know, to their credit, they also didn't have like chandeliers, and they didn't have a bunch of things that could get broken. I remember one time we were playing ball in my friend Rob's house. My buddy Rob, they called the other day, and we were playing ball in the house, and he threw something, and his mom had those little like Hummel little statues, German statues. Those things are heavy. And he threw the ball, and it hit the Hummel, and I didn't catch it. And it came down and just donked me right on the head. Dude, that could have hurt. But it was just like, it was almost like this bottle. It was like this. It didn't hit like on a corner or hit on like the sharp part, but I mean, it didn't tickle either. But yeah, I can totally understand why some people don't play ball in the house, but that was not something that the Recher family could really deal with 4 kids that played all kinds of sports. And of course, our friends were always over too. We played hockey downstairs. We also played basketball, hockey, football, baseball in the backyard. We were just sports family, baby, all day, every day. Look at Dolan in the house. He's way late. What's up, Jay and everyone? What's up, Dolan? Always great to hear from you, my friend. Yeah, make sure you're tuning in about 3:15 today. As soon as I leave the arena here, I'm going right to the car, heading right over to Ian's. And then we're doing the Beckles and Recher podcast. And we're going to talk about a bunch of different things, including the Buccaneers win, over the Houston Texans, what they got to do to be successful against the New York Jets. And then the Shedeur Sanders situation too, about how he apparently told the Baltimore Ravens to not draft him because he didn't want to be a backup to Lamar Jackson. Well, he's a backup now in Cleveland, behind Joe Flacco, behind Dylan Gabriel. I can kind of see both sides. I can kind of see if, like, all right, you have probably a better chance to fight for a starting job if you're in Cleveland, knowing that if you're going to Baltimore, like, it's going to have to take something super drastic for Lamar not to be the guy that's the starter there. Obviously, it's going to have to be, an injury. But do you want to go to Baltimore and kind of learn under Harbaugh, learn the right way? I can kind of see both sides. And I can't wait to hear what Ian has to say about it, because there's part of me that says, I agree with him. Don't go to Baltimore. And plus, you're learning from an offense that you're not going to run that offense. You're running a Lamar Jackson offense. That Lamar Jackson offense is Lamar's. You have to use him in the way that makes him the most successful, because he is such an incredible threat, not just with his arm, but with his legs. So if you're Shedeur, yeah, you're only going to play if there's an injury. You're not really competing, and you're going to be operating and running an offense that doesn't suit you and accentuate your strength. So I kind of get it a little bit. But there's also something to be said of kind of learning from, an organization like the Baltimore Ravens. I said organizations because I'm here at the Benchmark International Arena, but it's organization because we're talking football. And we're going to continue talking football with our pal Greg Auman from Fox Sports. He's got the lights in the background because he's a superstar. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. I'm here in the press conference room. It's like the quietest place to find.
Nice, man. That works. I'm in 212. Like, I'm by where this place sounds. It's nuts here. Usually during Tampa Bay Lightning games, they won't let me in the bowl. They won't let me because there's so many different things going on here at the arena as media day is wrapped up today. It's been a long day here at the building. I guess the big news there today was Cody Mauch not practicing, and Ian and I were talking about it on Monday night. He kept saying, Mauch looks like he's banged up. Mauch's like he's limping around. And I'm just like, he's like Jameis. He walks like that. I'm just trying to make him feel better. But I mean, where's the level of concern with the team, Greg, not having possibly the only guy that knew exactly what his position was going to be going into the game last week, not being available possibly for the game against the Jets?
Yeah, it was a patchwork line like 2 injuries ago. So Mauch was the only guy that was like unbothered, wasn't out of position or stepping up into a role he's not used to. So no, it's just a walkthrough today. So the fact that he's not there is concerning, but doesn't necessarily rule him out. I think they've done this a couple times now where guys have even missed 2 days of practice and they come back on Friday and they're fine. So the curiosity and the tough part is that there's not a lot of experience behind. I mean, they're already going to the practice squad for one starting job right now. With 2 guys out of position. So if Cody can't go on Sunday, I mean, it's Elijah Klein, who has, I think, 9 snaps in the NFL on offense in his career, or Luke Haggard, who hasn't played a snap in the NFL, or it'd be Ben Shaquuma, who's a tackle who's played like 10 snaps of special teams in the last 2 weeks. They'll get by, but it's tricky, and it's one of those where the Jets aren't an amazing defensive front, but especially up the middle, they got some really good defensive linemen up the middle. So that would make life harder for whoever's in there, whether it's an injured Cody Mauch or an inexperienced substitute there.
Yeah, I think I might be buying some stock on Quinnen Williams this week if that's, if we don't see any Cody Mauch on Sunday. What's the possibility we see Tristan Wirfs on Sunday, Greg?
I don't expect it. We asked Bowles today if like Luke Gedeke being out creates an urgency that wasn't there before, where, if the line is down one more starter, in theory, if it were close on Wirfs, maybe you'd do that. Today, again, it's just a walkthrough. Today, he's still working on the side. He still looks like somebody who's a couple weeks away. When we talked to Tristan, I mean, Bowles kind of had that deal where he said that Wirfs was in play for the Texans game last week. And then we went to Wirfs, and Tristan's like, no, the only thing we really talked about is week 5. I think he can rationalize week 4 because it's the Eagles, right. And knowing that he won't be at full go, and his knee would be tired, if you will. His leg would be tired at the end of the game. But I think that they want to win all these games. You have a chance to open up at home and get a win. You want to do that, but not at the expense of getting Wirfs back full go and knowing that once he's back, he's healthy and can go the rest of the way.
So Nick Chubb's running and I'm yelling, let him go, let him go, let him go. And the Buccaneers, whether they say it or not, definitely let him go. And I know I know a bunch of people have been asking Antoine Winfield Jr. I saw your tweet was grinning. I mean, they'll let him. It's not something you want to admit, right, Greg? Because it's kind of like a slippery slope type of thing. If they lose, and you know what I mean, you go, well, they could have missed a kick. Guys miss, a gimmies all the time. But I mean, judging by it, just seems like it was a well calculated move, and they got the ball back in 3 timeouts, right?
It worked exactly the way he wanted to. I don't think it was as simple as like, hey, let him in, but it would make sense. They're at the 25-yard line, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, if you can get him into a holding penalty, if you can get a sack, they're now in a questionable field goal range. But I think it makes a lot of sense to say, if they get through the line, if they get through the initial line of scrimmage, do not tackle them inside the 10-yard line. You gain nothing by doing that, because all you're doing is letting them take off your timeouts, bleed it under a minute, and hit a chip shot field goal for the lead. You don't want to choose that outcome. So I thought, again, whether they specifically did it or accidentally did it, it worked well, and it played out exactly the way you would want. Once you get to that point where you have an opponent at the 25-yard line with 2 minutes and change to go.
Greg, how do they deal with the whole injury to Kalijah Kancey? Obviously we live in a world where it's the fantasy football world. Just trade for this guy and sign this guy and give Ndamukong Suh and his financial advisor give a call. I think it's a lot more realistic to maybe bring a guy like Will Golston back, right? Because I don't think he hasn't officially retired. He's coaching high school football against Ian Eccles last week. So I think it's much more realistic to elevate a guy internally, or maybe sign a veteran that's going to be part of the numbers equation rather than insert starting D tackle here. Do you agree with that sentiment? And are there any other names that you're thinking?
Yeah, I do. And the thing, again, like losing Kancey is a significant loss, and somebody they need and absolutely, build around in the middle of that defense. But I mean, just as a point of reference, like 5 years ago, Vita Vea breaks his ankle in Chicago. That's Vita Vea gone what they think is for the year when you have Brady as a quarterback, and you certainly have big postseason aspirations. And their counter move to that was to trade a 7th-round pick for Steve McClendon, who nobody in town knew. Again, helped them out, but again, it wasn't go get Christian Wilkins. It wasn't trade for Dexter Lawrence. Okay. It was to go out and get a locker room guy who would give you experience, veteran depth, take half the snaps you lost to help you out, and move from there. So yeah, I do think it's, even though it's hard, this is kind of the Moneyball thing where they have to try and replace Kancey in the aggregate. Okay. There's not one guy that's going to come in and do what he did, but it's probably like 3 guys that'll be asked to do that. I think Logan Hall, who's already starting, probably plays more, takes on an extra 10 snaps a game. Elijah Roberts, who again is just a rookie, had a half sack on Monday night, has kind of looked promising. His workload probably doubles. He probably goes from being a rotational 5th to now a 4th, and a guy that's in multiple different packages. He's a guy that can put all over the front. And then it's probably somebody for the practice squad, whether it's a CJ Brewer or an Adam Gotsis or one of these guys that aren't on the 53, but have certainly played enough to where they're experienced enough to come in and get 15 snaps. And they got to try and make do with that. I mean, Greg Gaines had a sack Monday night.
He looked good. Well. He had a good game Monday night, man.
Gaines was getting after it. And Gaines is one of those where there's some guys who are effortless when they're chasing the quarterback, and Gaines looks like he's running absolutely as fast as he can. It's a cool thing. He's a shorter guy, but got there. I mean, just got a sack and had another play where he flushed. I mean, he dove and took a swipe, and I think it resulted in just a pressure and a throw out of bounds. But again, that's one of those where now you probably have some more looks where it's Vea next to Gaines, and you have both bigs in there at the same time. They have a guy on their practice squad named Jason Jones, who is just massive. He's like 6'3", They got him off the Ravens' last cuts. And he's a guy that I think, again, maybe not this week, but eventually will work into their rotation. So it's the sexy answer would be, again, they're signing Christian Wilkins. He's happy to come in, and he's healthy, and he's not going to be a locker room problem and all those things. I think it's probably something more understated. You mentioned, I mean, Will Golston honestly would make sense just because he's kind of in that body type, knows this defense well, lives in town. Logistically, you don't know where he is physically just because he hasn't had to practice in 9 months. But Will, he'd love to come back. He would be ready to go on Monday or Sunday and right back at it again.
Greg, when you're in the locker room after a win like that over Houston, we've been in successful locker rooms before, big wins, sad losses. Well, I just feel like that was a game that proved the Buccaneers are like I said before. This is one of those games where you understand when you lose a divisional game, right? You understand when you lose certain games and you go up and it's a heavyweight contest, you lose 38-35. But when you, and I don't want to say they didn't have anything to play for, but those are the type of games that you're going on the road, you're undermanned, it's a primetime game. It's historically, for some reason, you're not good in primetime games. It was like, hey, this is an opportunity to show maturation for a team. And I thought that they were able to do that. When you get the sense of like the vibe of this team, and I know they're a confident group, but what makes them different? And I know it's only 2 games, but what can you see as far as their growth? What can you see as far as possibly maybe something that's different than what we saw just last year?
Yeah, I mean, like Baker talked about how like those close games last year didn't necessarily go their way. You know, they had a couple overtime losses where they didn't even get the ball. Had games that slipped away. And honestly, I mean, the easy one to reference is 2 years ago in Houston against the Texans, where, again, back and forth game, you know, Baker throws a touchdown to Cade Otton that would have been one of the better plays we'd still be talking about. I think he did it with 46 seconds left. And then the defense can't close it. And Stroud on that same field against the same defense goes all the way down the field, touchdown with 6 seconds left, game over. Mike Evans talked about how, again, he doesn't let many losses sit with him, right? You kind of just 24 hours later move on. That's one that hit him hard. You know, that's his home. That's where you want to have everybody that shows up for you see you get the win, you know? So I thought it was really neat for them that they flipped things on Monday night. And when things went completely wrong with the block punt, with the big punt return, you give up like 9 points in 3 minutes or whatever it was. And then just like that, they go 80 yards and they score with 6 seconds left and they get exactly what they wanted. So I think the locker room was really cool in that there wasn't this like ridiculous elation and celebration. I think they were pleased they won and know that close road wins are hard to get sometimes. And the cool thing is that you could tell Bulls got to them because they're 2-0 for the 5th year in a row. Everybody you talk to, if you mention 2-0, he's like, well, you know, we've lost the 3rd game 4 years in a row. Like they know, hey, that's me, but it ended right here 4 years in a row. So I think they want very much to stop celebrating this win and try and get ready for another one and flip the page and turn to the Jets and being home. And, you know, to go 2-0 on the road to start a season, it's not often the league does that to you, to make you go 2 tough games in a row on the road. But if you do that, now you're in this cool place where whatever 9 of their 15 or whatever it is are at home.
Yeah,
that helps. So if you can get past that, I think they recognize that you've set yourself up for a little easier slate the rest of the way.
Yeah, for me, that's why I was so bullish on them going into the season, just because of the schedule. You know, people want to talk about the middle of the season the last 2 years and like, well, they took this swoon, and you know, some people want to blame Todd. I'm like, it wasn't unexpected. Like, we all looked at the schedule the last 2 years, like, this is going to be the hard part. I mean, was it last year, the year before, they played the last 4 teams that were in the AFC and the NFC Championship games,
4 in a row.
Yeah, and it doesn't it coincides with losing Godwin and Evans. What do you think was going to happen? Before I let you go, I want to ask you about one of the concerns that I have, or 2 of the concerns I have. I want to ask you about Servassier Dennis, because he's another guy that, if there's one thing he can do, guys, he can cover. Okay. Well, I really haven't seen that too much so far, but dude, he's not wearing that on his jersey. Like, this dude is still sticking his nose in there. He's contributing via the blitz, but I mean, part of the reason why everybody was so hyped up is because he was able to do that. And then also Yaya Diaby. I feel like Yaya's a guy where I'm just getting to the point, Greg, where I'm a little sick of everybody telling me how great he is at pressures. Like, it's just like it's an horseshoes and hand grenades kind of discussion with Yaya Diaby all the time. And it's like, I know what pressures can lead to. I've followed this game my entire life. But at the end of the day, like, you don't get paid for pressures. You get paid for sacks. You got to bring the guy down. And I thought he was pretty non-existent in the game against Houston. At least when Hassan Reddick is doing stuff, you can see like he's drawing holding penalties. Not saying Yaya doesn't do that, but Hassan's, you can see his contributions a little bit better. Talk me off the ledge when it comes to Servassier and Yaya.
Yeah. First with Dennis, I mean, I think it's neat. Like, Bowles unfailingly is protecting and backing Servassier and making it clear they believe in him. He's been productive. I think there's 2 plays early that have made him really look bad and kind of put a bad taste in your mouth. That Bijan touchdown against Atlanta, where again just kind of ran around him, and Bowles kind of helps him out and says he got out athleted there, right? But again, there's angles and there's putting yourself in position. You know that guy's faster than you. You can't let him go around you, if you will. And basically the same thing happened with Woody Marks with the Texans back early in that game, where there was a screen pass that he just pulled away. And I mean, you see Servacio Dennis running after him, but he's not getting him. And it was probably 25-yard gain, maybe something like that. So I think he's given up a lot of yards in pass coverage. I think it hasn't been the middle of the field was such a liability for the Bucs last year, especially after Dennis was gone, that I think it's been more on flares down the outside, just people he's been trailing in coverage. But and again, like Breece Hall, really fast back, good pass catching back, could do it again on Sunday.
Right.
Absolutely. So I think they feel like Dennis is still working out the kinks. I think they're going to be patient with him. I think they brought in Deion Jones for like 2 snaps on Monday night.
Made a big play at the end.
Yeah, no, he did. The Dennis thing is definitely something to watch, just because that you think about how much time we spent this spring projecting them to take a linebacker in the first round. I'm watching Jahad Campbell on Sunday in Kansas City. Jahad Campbell looks like the guy everybody thought he would be as the best linebacker in this draft class. Didn't draft a linebacker at all. Didn't really sign anyone. They signed Anthony Walker, who didn't even make the cut. So that's putting all your chips to the middle of the table.
Yeah,
buddy. Dennis. And again, they do that because they believe in him. They're doing the same thing with Tyke Smith. They believe in their own. He just hasn't shown up yet and needs to. I think he has 19 tackles. He has a fair amount of tackles. It's just he's gotten beaten on some plays.
Right.
You asked about Yaya Diaby. Same thing there. Again, Diaby, if anything, you wondered if having Hassan Reddick, if the indirect benefit of Hassan Reddick being who he is on the opposite side would free up Yaya Diaby to now not have to be the best rusher in every play. He should be the beneficiary of that, be getting one-on-ones, be getting the quarterbacks. And he hasn't yet. It's not to say he won't. I mean, but they're, from a sack standpoint, you look at their sacks Monday night, okay? I don't think there were any rush ends. I mean, I think it was Gaines. It was Elijah Roberts split with Levante David. It was Tyke Smith. You're getting 3 sacks. You don't really care where they're from, but you'd like to have the bread and butter of your sack production be your edge rushers on the outside. They'll have a chance to do that Monday with the Jets. I think Diaby is a guy who, if again, the pressures work in his favor, those numbers help him. But like you said, man, you're a sack artist. Okay. It comes down to if Yaya gets to double-digit sacks, if he just gets 10-5 or something, he's going to win over a lot of people. He might be the same guy over 900, 800 snaps in a season, but if you just make those 10 plays, okay?
Right.
Reddick's the same way, man. Reddick wants sack fumbles. He doesn't just want sacks. So they have no takeaways as a defense in 2 weeks. That's what they're supposed to be much better at this year. This is where they were going to take a step forward. They've won 2 games, and I think their defense has been a big part of it. I don't think they've won because of their defense. Again, there's no short fields. There's no defensive touchdowns. There's no game. That 4th down stop, everybody, Baker going 80 yards in 2 minutes is all we wrote about. But, I mean, you can write a lot about 4th and 1, Houston being a yard away from taking the lead, and in the 4th quarter, and the Bucs stopping them 3 times. I mean, not just 1, 3 times from the 1. And you stop them on 2nd down when they run the ball. That's what takes away their confidence. You'd think, man, you got Nick Chubb, you run Nick Chubb 3 times from the 1, you'd think you're going to get in. But Vea stuffs him enough on 2nd down.
They got scared.
They're calling pass plays.
They got scared.
Yeah. So anyway, like I said, this defense, I think, can take a big step forward this season. Probably hasn't shown up that obviously in the first 2 games, but definitely can here in the next couple of weeks.
The great Greg Auman, Fox Sports. Check him out at Greg Auman. Greg, always appreciate your time making our show the whole heck of a lot better. I'll see you on Sunday, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Have a good one.
You got it, buddy. Greg Auman, man. Busy guy. So glad that we were able to get him in today. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me. I got to roll because I got to get ready for the Beckles and Recher podcast right at 3 o'clock, right there at the Dignitary Cafe. Make sure you're following us right here. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A big thank you to Greg Auman from Fox Sports. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Follow my guys right here, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC. Give them a call for all your residential and commercial needs. 813-244-0956. Scan that QR code. And we got our second sponsor, Boom, Boom, Boom. It's going to be starting next Monday as well. So we'll announce that on Friday. Man, I appreciate everybody bearing with me for all of the time changes. It started a little bit late today. But yeah, man, we're rocking and rolling all week long. I love you all. Follow me at Recher everywhere. I'll see you tomorrow at noon back at home right here on the Recher podcast. I'm gone. Peace out.